Hello, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a clinical neuropsychologist, and I'm also the father of a couple of ADHD kiddos that are now adults. And I have been working with ADHD for over 40 years. And today, I want to talk about one of the more disheartening parts about working with ADHD, and that's the fact that somewhere around 50 to 80% of all ADHDers in treatment quit said treatment within a year. Okay, and now this is in spite of the fact that most psychiatrists will tell you that stimulant medication for ADHD is the most effective treatment in all of psychiatry. No other treatment for any other disorder is nearly as strong as stimulants for ADHD are. But a tremendous number of people quit when they have not even fully uh, experienced the whole range of things. Some will take it. I mean, I've had patients take it for 2 weeks and say, I'm not taking that crap anymore. Anyway, the other deal with this is that treating ADHD medication it's kind of tricky because not only are there a bunch of different stimulant medications, there are a bunch of different non-stimulant medications, and sometimes people don't respond to the first medication you give them. Sometimes, like in where I live, it's all Adderall. Every provider, family practice docs, all the way to the psychiatrists, are prescribing Adderall. Now we've had some disruptions in the production of the same, and it's gotten harder to get. And now I don't know if it's back to normal or what, but Adderall is a very strong medication, and sometimes folks have really strong reactions to it. But you have to, frankly, your average medical provider, think of the tremendous amount of information those guys are supposed to, or women are supposed to keep in their heads. They can't be an expert in everything. And you really need an expert in ADHD to treat your ADHD child. You don't want somebody who's, I don't use this very much, but here, try this, see if it works, kind of thing. You don't want that. Okay. You want somebody who's been there before, knows ups. Sometimes people don't do well on this one. They get a little too hyped. And so we'll have to switch over to this one, and we'll cut the dosage down because, the standard dosages don't mean a whole lot, especially since ADHD is a lifelong kind of difficulty for 99% of the people. You have to change it as their weight changes, as their growth changes. When you start out with a 7-year-old kid, and all of a sudden he's 6'4", and he's the nose tackle on the football team. You probably need a different dosage, but you can't, because I remember I used to tell people this all the time. I've had little skinny 6-year-olds come in, and they're on the maximum dose you can prescribe. And they need it. But then I've had big old football player kind of guys that are on little baby amounts of medication. So it's very individual, and it takes some work. If your doc gives you a prescription and says, see me in a year. No. You need to do all sorts of special work with the medication. And they need to be coming back regularly for at least 3 to 6 months, depending on how quickly you find something that really works well. Because, you've got different medications, you got different dosages. And you can't tell just looking at somebody how much they're going to need of a specific stimulant or non-stimulant medication. So it's a trial and error method, which there's nothing wrong with that per se, but if you've got a guy who's, well, our healthcare system, you don't want to get me started on that, but it's not the best. Let's just put it that way. And we have guys that are, I mean, I do not know how your average family care doctor manages to see 20, 25 patients a day. I mean, that's just insane. Okay, I will get off of my little soapbox there. Okay, what are some of the reasons why do some people say, or why do they quit? Why do so many quit? Well, first of all, the side effects. Some people, boy, they take a stimulant and they get all sorts of weird side effects that perhaps most people don't get. But it's very individual. Your biological gifts that your parents gave you, some of them will respond really well to stimulant medication. Man, you'll get that first pill and you'll think you've found nirvana. But for a lot of people, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to feel like this. I've got irritability. I've got insomnia. I can't eat. And with a growing kid, that's also a problem. The kid in the middle of a growth spurt who's, in addition to gaining 6 inches or so of height, he's losing 10 or 15 pounds. That's going to be something to worry about a little bit. So the biological picture that people have, and there's a movement now in medicine to start looking at the genetic picture and prescribing based on that. Sort of like they take 23andMe and then have gone applied that to diagnosis and treatment, and that's probably a good thing. We keep treating it like there's just one person in the world, and unfortunately, it is a male for most of the research. We're just starting to get research in ADHD area that's identifies the women as they also get ADHD. They just, like most things, get it a little quieter than men do. Okay, so side effects are one of the big reasons. The other interesting thing is that a lot of times ADHDers taking the medication can't tell that it's working, where the parents are going, oh my God, this is so much better. It's so much easier. Oh, Lord, I don't ever want him off of this. But a lot of times the patient will not recognize that this is being effective. And some of the things are a little subtle. Some of the problems are a little bit subtle. How do we know your time sense is off? How do we know that your working memory is a problem? How do we? There are some things that are hard to put a number on, and certainly hard to self-observe. So that is a big deal. And the biggie with a lot of people, and as your child, if we're starting with a kid, as your child gets closer and closer to adolescence, you are probably going to have them start to rebel. That's where they start. I want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be different. I don't want to, do anything different. The people will think I'm weird, that kind of stuff. Sort of exaggerated adolescent concerns. Okay. The other thing is that, when I was having kids, we didn't know a lot about ADHD. We didn't have a lot of research. We didn't even have the name until 1980. Well, no, I'm sorry. The ADHD we didn't have until 87. We had ADD in 1980. But until then, there were a couple of different names that were used. hyperkinetic reaction of childhood is one of my favorites. But it was like, sounds like to have ADHD, you gotta be hyperactive. And since it's a childhood disease, it probably means you outgrow it. And none of that's true. There are all kinds of different presentations of ADHD, and there are all kinds of different durations, I guess you'd say, of symptoms. And, you know, some people come in and they're just hyper as a, and you can diagnose those kiddos in about 5 minutes. And the others are a little sudden. And most of those girls are famous for being more of on the inattentive portion of things. And, they just kind of sit quietly and don't make a mess or anything like that. But they're going somewhere. They're off in La La Land. And it's a problem because it's harder to diagnose, and it's also harder to figure out if you're having an effect. Okay, of course, a lot of people reject treatment because they say, I can manage this myself. I can do it. It's not like I'm blind or something. I can do it. I can handle this. I can manage it by myself. And sometimes people can, I mean, there are a lot of doctors and engineers, and chemists and accountants and all those sorts of high concentration, you'd think, sort of professions, and people manage to figure out how to work with their own brains and make it through medical school, say. The other one of the other things we get, especially as they get older, is and a lot of people who are late diagnosed and work in creative things, copywriters, actors, writers of all kinds, will say, well, when I take this medication, my creativity just goes away. So it stifles my personality. It's not I don't feel like I'm as creative when I'm on my medication. And, I don't know. Creativity is such an elusive thing to try to study. It's hard to tell. Okay, we talked briefly about side effects. The ones that you most talk about are irritability, insomnia, loss of appetite. Those are the biggies, probably for most. Well, certainly for kids, but I have some patients who've talked about having difficulties urinating and other characteristics similar. That their bodies don't feel quite right. There's a lot of very vague kind of things. Okay, and then we go to stage of life. Ideally, my picture of an ideal patient is somebody who's identified at the age of 6 or 7, maybe 8 on the outside. You have a psychiatrist or a good general practice doc who's got some experience with ADHD, and we get a hit on the right medication right away. And parents are really, good at understanding what's going on and then they follow through. And so it's an ideal patient, and everything will be gravy. And then all of a sudden, adolescence hits. And when with teenagers, they become herd followers, as they want to be like everybody else. They want to wear the same costumes. They want to have the same haircuts. They want to be interested in the same kind of music, and everything is about being cohesive, and not parents what parents want. It's what my friends want. That becomes the big important thing. And of course, that puts a lot more pressure to stop taking medication. I mean, it's a lot better now when most of the medications are all day. You don't have to stop every 4 hours like it used to be, or go to the nurse's station at noon and get your medication. It's not like that anymore. It's you can have this. You can take one pill in the morning and you're good for the whole day. But it used to be that it was, you stood out a little bit, and there's still a concern about. I want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be taking this. I don't want, and that's the other interesting thing I think is that ADHDers, well, not everybody, really, it's hard for the person who's actually taking the medication to recognize that it is having an effect, unless it's a bad effect. Okay. Uh, they typically aren't very accurate. I already talked a little bit about this, is that the parents will be going, oh, thank God, this is so wonderful. The kid is thinking, this isn't doing anything. This isn't helping me. I don't need this. And of course, one of the biggies especially when it first came out, that that you're going to have your kid take a stimulant on purpose, is the fear of addiction. It's a gateway drug. It's going to lead to hard drugs and self-destruction and selling dope on the street corners and all that kind of stuff. Okay, in point of fact, kids who stay on their medication tend to have a lower incidence of difficulties with any kind of substance abuse than folks who are just left to their own devices. And it's a difficult thing to explain to people, because it doesn't seem, wait a minute, you get high, right? I mean, well, not if you've got ADHD. You don't get high. You get normal. You get neurotypical, and that's a major thing that people worry about. And the other thing that frequently, especially with adults, that they quit taking it is because the executive functioning problems that they have, like forgetting, losing stuff, not being really well organized, and all that sort of thing. You can't take the medication if you don't have it. And if you forgot to get your prescription renewed, or if you forget to take it, oh crap, I forgot again today, that kind of stuff. That obviously is going to cause some difficulties. And then finally you get, it's back with it. It's not helping that much anyway. Well, it's probably not helping that much because you're not taking it that much. You're not taking it that regularly, that sort of thing. Now, having said all this, and our kids aren't on medication. My inattentive one is, she's doing just fine, thank you. And I don't really. I mean, it was. Shoot, I think she was 35 when we thought, that's what's going on. And then my hyperactive one, he had horrible side effects, and so he's not on any medication either. So we're sort of trying to deal with that with basically behavior, lots of exercise, meditation, caffeine, big time caffeine. My coffee bill has gone up incredibly amount. Anything we can do to increase dopamine, we'll try it. Just started reading some things about copper and zinc imbalances that may be underlying the whole dopamine thing. But I haven't researched that enough that I really know what I'm talking about. But it's something that you might want to look into as well. So people quit the medication. First, the biggest problem is probably that they don't trust it, that it doesn't make any sense to them that a medication that is, or a substance that is abused could be good for their kid. And, that the kiddo is probably not going to say, oh, this is great. I like this a lot better. That's not going to happen. And then there is some stigma. I mean, I still have people, I have pediatricians telling me, I don't believe in that crap. Oh, excuse me? There's so much research. That's probably the most researched diagnosis there is. And you don't believe in it. Well, okay, you are never getting another referral from me. I guarantee it. I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any sense to do things like that if you're supposed to be a man of science or a woman of science. Matter of fact, we had a couple, they were both pediatricians. The wife was really good with ADHD kids. The husband was, I don't believe in this stuff, macho man kind of thing. Anyway, so you do the best you can do. You try to encourage whatever works best for them. It's a very individual thing, although the research would tend to say, give them the medication, have them take it. Maybe try Stratera or one of the other non-stimulant medications and see if that's better. But if you're an old-time ADHD parent or an ADHDer yourself, this stuff never goes away. It's always there, and the best thing you can do is be able to modify your life around it, to know that you're going to forget stuff, to know that you're going to forget stuff and leave things where you don't remember where you put them. But pretty soon you'll be my age, and that'll be normal. So you've got to adapt and adjust about anything you want. You've got to adapt and adjust and do the best you can with what you know how to do, and be nice to yourself. Doesn't do you any good to make yourself feel miserable in addition to having some problems. Okay, I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. This has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat, and we're trying to make the world a little safer for ADHDers. I have a website, of course, and you can sign up for my newsletter, which is on different topics than what's in the podcast, which means I'm burning twice as much information as I used to. And also, I can do you can sign up for a free, it's just an intake kind of interview just to see if we can work together and help you out a little bit. And there'll be other things. I'm going to be having a course, and then sometime in the next few months, and I'm also going to have a group, a membership group, very low monthly fees, and get together a couple of times a month and do Q&As and that sort of stuff. So pay attention. I'll be notifying you about those sorts of things in the future. Okay, we will catch you next week. Keep the world safe for ADHD.